Have you ever felt invisible? As if your words vanish into thin air before they're even heard? As if your pain is such an inconvenient burden that people prefer to pretend you don't exist? We've all been there at some point. That feeling of screaming silently while the world passes by indifferently. Of reaching out and finding no one on the other side. Of realizing your existence is so irrelevant that people literally look away as you pass. Now imagine that this invisibility isn't just a bad feeling. Imagine it's a chronic illness, that every time you try to connect with the world, your own body betrays you with an uncontrollable laugh that no one understands. A laugh that doesn't express joy, but pain. A laugh that is, in fact, a neurological distress signal, a symptom of deep trauma. And yet, people look at you with disgust, with fear, with contempt, as if you were a walking joke, a nuisance to be avoided. This is Arthur Fleck's reality. An invisible man in a city that doesn't see. A man whose pain is so uncomfortable that society would rather turn it into a joke than recognize it as a cry for help. A man who carries a card in his pocket explaining his condition because he knows no one will ask. No one will try to understand. He literally needs to carry an instruction manual for his own suffering. And here's the truth no one wants to admit. Arthur Fleck wasn't born the Joker. Gotham created him, brick by brick, humiliation by humiliation, indifference by indifference. Every person who looked away, every system that failed, every moment of cruelty disguised as normalcy contributed to the construction of this monster. In this video, we'll decode the dark psychology behind one of cinema's most disturbing transformations. We'll understand how the human mind fragments under the weight of systematic trauma, how identity disintegrates when there's nothing and no one to sustain it. And we'll confront the uncomfortable truth that indifference isn't neutral. Indifference is a weapon, perhaps the cruelest of all. And when you ignore someone's pain long enough, when you treat their humanity as disposable, you're not just being cruel. You're carrying the weapon they'll use against themselves or against the world. Get ready, because this journey will make you question what it truly means to be human in a society that has forgotten how to see humanity. It will make you look at the monster and recognize the fingers that shaped it. And some of those fingers may be ours. Dark alley. Arthur Fleck carries a sign advertising a sale. It's just another day at work, another day trying to survive in a city that doesn't care. A group of teenagers steal the sign and run. Arthur, needing that job, needing that money, runs after them. And then, the inevitable. He's beaten, kicked while he's on the ground, defenseless. The sign shatters over his body as the kids laugh and run away. But pay attention to what happens next. Arthur returns to work, bruised, bleeding, in obvious physical pain. And his boss doesn't ask if he's okay, doesn't offer help, doesn't call an ambulance, doesn't show a shred of basic human concern. The only thing that matters is, where's the sign? The store's property is worth more than the physical integrity of a human being. Arthur is fired. And here's what's especially cruel. He's not fired for being attacked. You're not fired for losing your license plate. He's fired for carrying a gun to defend himself, a gun he didn't even want, but that a colleague, Randall, insisted he take for protection. Because even in Gotham, even in the circle of marginalized clowns, everyone knows that Arthur is the most vulnerable, the most likely to be attacked, the one most in need of protection. And when confronted by his boss, when Arthur tries to explain that the gun came from Randall, that same colleague lies without blinking. He denies everything, and Arthur loses his job. He loses his source of income. He loses another anchor of identity in an ocean of uncertainty. Do you know what the real tragedy here is? It's not the physical violence. It's the systematic invalidation. It's the world telling you over and over, in 1,000 different ways. Your pain doesn't matter. Your suffering is an inconvenience. You are disposable. You have no value as a human being. Arthur isn't just physically beaten. He's emotionally beaten every day. By his mother, Penny, who uses him as emotional support and caregiver while living in a fantasy about a romantic relationship with Thomas Wayne that never existed. By Gotham's healthcare system, which cuts off his medications and therapy just when he needs them most, simply saying there's no more funding, as if mental health were an optional luxury. By subway passengers who laugh as he has a pathological laughing fit, filming him as if he were a circus phenomenon. By his idol, Murray Franklin, who humiliates him on national television by showing the video of his failed stand-up routine, transforming his most vulnerable moment, his desperate attempt to connect through humor, into cruel entertainment for millions. And here's what we need to understand. Arthur isn't asking for much. He doesn't want wealth. He doesn't want fame. He doesn't want power. He wants the most basic thing a human being can desire. He wants to be seen. He wants someone to recognize that his pain is real, that his struggle has meaning, that he exists beyond being just another body taking up space in Gotham. But each time he reaches out, the world doesn't just refuse. The world laughs. The world turns his vulnerability into a joke. The world repeatedly confirms that he was right to believe he doesn't matter. And that collective laughter? That's the seed of the monster. Because when you treat human suffering as a joke for long enough, when you systematically deny someone's humanity, don't be surprised when the joke turns into tragedy. The anger that arises in Arthur is not a character flaw. It is not innate evil. It is a perfectly understandable human response to systematic dehumanization. And before we judge his actions, we need to acknowledge this uncomfortable truth. We have all felt a glimpse of this anger when our pain was minimized, when we were invisible, when we realized no one was really listening, when we felt completely alone in our struggle. The difference is that most of us have had a helping hand at some point. A friend, a family member, a therapist, someone who said, "I see you. Your pain is valid. You are not alone." Arthur never had that hand. Never had that moment. And that makes all the difference in the world. Now we come to the watershed moment, the subway. Late at night, Arthur is returning home after another devastating day. He's been fired. He's lost his therapist. He's off his medication. He's mentally exhausted, emotionally shattered. 3 drunk men, Wall Street executives, harassing a woman. She tries to ignore it. They persist. And then Arthur, sitting a few seats away, bursts into laughter. That involuntary, painful laugh he can't control. The men turn their attention to him. The woman takes the opportunity to exit the carriage. And now it's 3 against 1. They think Arthur is laughing at them, mocking them. He tries to show them the card explaining his condition. But they don't want an explanation. They want a target for their aggression. And Arthur, fragile, vulnerable, alone, is the perfect target. They start beating him. Kicks, punches. Arthur falls to the ground. Again, like in the alley. Like always, a lifetime of being the victim. A lifetime of being beaten. A lifetime on the ground while others stand over him. And then, for the first time, Arthur fights back. The gun Randall gave him. The gun that lost him his job. The gun he carried more out of desperation than intention. He draws it and fires. 1 shot, 2, 3. Panic. The men try to flee. One of them manages to get out of the train car, wounded and bleeding, trying to escape down the stairs. And Arthur chases him. And here, in the empty stairwell, far from any witnesses, far from any immediate threat, Arthur fires again, and again, and again, not in self-defense, but in something much darker, something much deeper. Let's stop here and decode what really happened. Because this isn't just a murder. This isn't just a man defending his life. This is the shadow's volcanic eruption. In Jung's analytical psychology, the shadow represents everything we repress about ourselves. Every anger we swallow, every resentment we suppress, every impulse we consider unacceptable that doesn't fit the image we want to project to the world. Every I hate, I want revenge, I want to destroy. We push into the depths of our psyche because we've been taught that these things are bad, that good people don't feel them. Arthur spent his entire life repressing, swallowing humiliation after humiliation, stifling his anger with involuntary laughter that only increased his torment. Being beaten physically and emotionally, while desperately trying to maintain some semblance of kindness, of normalcy, of being a good person in a cruel world. But the shadow doesn't disappear when it's repressed. It builds. It ferments deep within. It builds pressure, like magma beneath a tectonic plate. And it waits. It waits for the moment when the structure above it becomes too fragile to contain it. The subway was the volcano erupting. Years, decades of humiliation condensed into seconds of explosive violence. And when Arthur fires that last shot, when he observes the fallen body, something fundamental shifts within him. For the first time in his life, he's not a victim. For the first time, he has power. Real power. Not the fantasy of being loved by Thomas Wayne. Not the illusion that he'll one day be a great comedian. But tangible, visceral, undeniable power. The power of life and death. And this is where the Joker is born. Not as a premeditated plan, not as a rational choice, not as a conscious decision to become a villain, but as an accident. An archetype that emerges from chaos, that crystallizes from violence, that finds form in the absence of all other possibilities. The vengeful anarchist, the destructive trickster, the one who doesn't seek justice within the system because the system has proven time and time again that there is no justice for him. So he seeks to destroy the system, not to build something better, not for a political ideology, but simply to watch it burn, to make the world feel a fraction of the pain he felt. Observe Arthur's physical and psychological transformation after the subway. He begins to wear makeup, at first timidly, then completely. The dance in the public restroom after the murder. The dance on the Gotham staircase, descending lightly, gracefully, as if freed from invisible chains. The costumes become more extravagant, more colorful, more deliberately provocative. The camera makes us feel this liberation, feel this power, this euphoria of finally, no longer being invisible, of finally mattering, of finally having an impact on the world. But here's the foreshadowing we need to grasp, the dark truth the film is showing us. This isn't healing. It's anesthesia. It's exchanging unbearable pain for an even deeper emptiness. Arthur isn't integrating his shadow in a healthy way, isn't acknowledging his rage and learning to channel it constructively. He's being consumed by it, devoured. The Joker persona isn't genuine empowerment. It's the disintegration of the psyche masquerading as rebirth. It's total collapse masquerading as liberation. Because when Arthur embraces the Joker, he doesn't become more whole. he becomes less human, less capable of real connection, less capable of love, less capable of everything that makes life worth living. And that's the tragedy that will unfold in the next scenes. The tragedy of a man who, in his desperate quest to be seen, to finally matter, transforms into something no one can recognize as human anymore. The monster isn't born on the subway. The monster is born when Arthur decides the pain is too heavy a burden to bear alone. And if he has to burn inside, if he has to suffer this agony every day, let the world burn with him. Let the world feel. Let the world finally pay attention. Now let's raise the bar. Because what makes the Joker so fascinating isn't just the violence. It's not just the visual transformation. It's the perfect cinematic representation of something that analytical psychology describes theoretically, but we rarely see portrayed with such precision and brutality. The complete disintegration of the human psyche. If this decoding is resonating with you and offering you a new lens through which to see these stories, please consider leaving a like. It's a simple act that helps this reflection reach other minds on the same quest. And if you believe every story is a map of the soul, subscribe and turn on notifications. Our journey through the Hero's Codex has only just begun. And don't forget to leave your perspective in the comments below. I read and learned from them all. In the classic hero's journey, think Luke Skywalker, Frodo, any traditional protagonist, we see a process of integration. The hero confronts his shadow, acknowledges his denied aspects, his flaws, his fears, and consciously integrates them into his personality. He becomes more complete, more balanced, more human, ironically, by accepting both his light and his darkness. Arthur Fleck follows the opposite journey, a journey of disintegration, a journey of fragmentation, a journey that leads not to wholeness, but to emptiness. Think of the psyche as a structure with three fundamental levels. At the top, we have the ego, our conscious identity, who we believe ourselves to be, the persona we present to the world, our sense of self. In the middle, we have the shadow, everything we repress and deny about ourselves, all the unacceptable impulses, all the anger and darkness we've pushed under the rug. And at the base, we have the self, the organizing center of the psyche, the archetype of wholeness, what Jung called the God within, the source of meaning and purpose. In a healthy psyche, there is a constant dialogue between these levels. The ego acknowledges the shadow without being dominated by it. The shadow provides vital energy and authenticity. The self provides meaning, direction, and a sense of greater purpose. It is a system in dynamic balance, where all parts contribute to the whole person. But what happens when the ego is so fragile, so constantly attacked, so systematically invalidated, that it can no longer maintain its structure? When the foundations of identity are eroded by trauma after trauma, humiliation after humiliation, rejection after rejection, the shadow doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't ask for permission. It invades. It cannibalizes. It takes complete control. And the ego, too weak to resist, simply collapses. And that's exactly what we see happening to Arthur. Each humiliation weakens his already precarious ego, already fragile from a childhood marked by abuse. Each rejection erodes a little more his ability to maintain a cohesive identity, to know who he is. And when he discovers the truth about his mother, that Penny is delusional, that his childhood was a lie built on abuse and neglect, that he was adopted, that even his memories of love and connection were false, that his very origins are an unanswered question. What remains of the ego simply collapses. it crumbles. It ceases to exist. And in the vacuum left by the destroyed ego, the shadow doesn't integrate healthily. It doesn't become part of a greater whole. It becomes the only identity available, the only thing left when everything else has been stripped away. Here's the knowledge that separates a superficial analysis from a truly profound understanding. Arthur doesn't choose to become the Joker. He doesn't wake up one day and decide to be a villain. He no longer has a choice. The Joker is all that remains when you systematically, methodically, cruelly remove all other possibilities of being. In Jungian terms, Arthur experiences what we call negative psychic inflation. He is not possessed by a divine or heroic archetype, as happens with prophets or heroes. He is possessed, and I use that word deliberately, by the archetype of the destructive trickster, of chaos personified, of the collective shadow of an entire society. And when you are possessed by an archetype, when a psychic force greater than the individual ego dominates you, you do not control it. You are merely the vehicle through which it manifests itself in the world. You are merely the channel, the medium, the mask the archetype uses to express itself. Arthur's transformation isn't genuine empowerment. It isn't true liberation. It's a psychological tragedy of the highest order. It's what happens when a human mind is subjected to trauma after trauma, rejection after rejection, invalidation after invalidation, without any support, without any recognition, without any hope that things can get better. It's what happens when all bridges are burned and there's no way back for humanity. Heroes integrate the shadow and become stronger, more complete, more capable of love and compassion. Arthur is devoured by the shadow and ceases to exist as an individual. What dances on the stairs? What sits in Murray Franklin's chair? What stands atop the police car is no longer a man. It is a symbol, an idea, a collective cry of all Gotham's forgotten and humiliated, an avatar of the repressed rage of an entire city. And symbols don't feel. Symbols don't heal. Symbols don't love. Symbols only burn. Symbols only destroy. Symbols only exist as reflections of the collective psyche that created them. And this symbol is about to take center stage, literally, in front of millions of people. On the show that once represented both his greatest dream and his greatest humiliation, Murray Franklin's show, the lights, the audience, and Arthur Fleck, now fully embodied as the Joker, sitting in the special guest chair. This is the moment he's waited his whole life for. To be seen, to be heard, to matter. But he doesn't come to entertain. He comes to confront. Murray Franklin represents everything that destroyed Arthur. He is the media that turns suffering into a spectacle. He is society that laughs at the pain of others. He is the absent father Arthur never had, but always fantasized about. And now, for the first time, Arthur has his undivided attention. And what does he do? He flips the script. You think men like me can't do anything, that our lives don't matter. For the first time, Arthur controls the narrative. He's no longer the joke. He's the comedian. And the joke is on everyone who laughed at him. Murray tries to regain control. He tries to calm the situation. But it's too late, because Arthur has finally understood something fundamental. He will never have validation. He will never have genuine recognition. He will never be seen as human by these people. So if he cannot be loved, he will be remembered. And then, on national television, in front of millions of people, the Joker does the unthinkable. A shot, silence, chaos. Arthur didn't just kill Murray Franklin. He killed the last hope that society could change, that empathy could exist, that he could be saved. And now I need to ask you an uncomfortable question. Think about the last time you saw someone suffering. It could be a coworker, a neighbor, a stranger on the street having a moment of crisis. What did you do? Did you stop? Did you ask if everything was okay? Did you offer help, even if it was just listening? Or did you look away? Did you go on your way? Did you tell yourself it wasn't your problem? I'm not saying this to blame anyone. We've all looked away. We've all ignored signs of distress because it was more comfortable, safer, more convenient. But here's the truth the Joker forces us to confront. A small act of empathy can be the difference between an outstretched hand and a pulled trigger. Arthur Fleck didn't need much. He needed someone to validate his pain. Someone to say, "I see you. Your suffering is real. You are not alone." One person, one moment, one genuine human connection. Would it have been enough? We'll never know. But the complete absence of that empathy certainly wasn't. And now, with Murray Franklin dead and Gotham in flames, Arthur finally gets what he's always wanted. But not in the way he imagined. The hood of the police car. Arthur, covered in blood, slowly stands up. All around, complete chaos. Gotham is burning. Buildings are on fire. Sirens, screams. The total collapse of social order. And a crowd of people wearing clown masks surrounds him. Not with fear, not with disgust, not with the repulsion he always encountered, but with adoration, with reverence, as if he were a messiah who had finally arrived to save them. Remember the alley? Remember Arthur on the ground, being kicked, bleeding, alone, completely invisible to the world? Remember him trying to work, trying to survive, just trying to exist. Remember him on the subway, laughing involuntarily as everyone stared at him with contempt. Filming him like an animal in a zoo? Remember him holding that card, trying to explain his condition, begging for a modicum of understanding? Now look at him, standing on the car, lifted by the shoulders of the crowd, glorified, idolized, finally seen, finally important, finally recognized as someone who exists, who matters, who changed the world. This is the tragic reward, the twisted psychological benefit the Joker finally achieves. It's everything Arthur ever wanted, but in a totally twisted form. Arthur Fleck wanted to be seen, and now he is. But not as Arthur, as the Joker, as a symbol, as a saint for the forgotten, the invisible, the humiliated of Gotham, as a martyr of chaos who gave voice to the silent rage of millions. He finally belongs. He finally has an identity that people not only recognize, but celebrate, venerate, and emulate. He finally has the meaning he's been searching for. His existence now carries weight. It has consequences. It has power. But here's the tragedy within the tragedy. Arthur had to die so the Joker could live. He had to destroy every vestige of his humanity, every remnant of the person he once dreamed of being a comedian, making people truly laugh, bringing joy to the world. He had to become everything he feared to finally receive the validation he always craved. And this validation, it doesn't come from who he really is. It doesn't come from his human qualities, from his sincere attempts to connect, from his genuine desire to bring light to the world. It comes from the chaos he represents, from the collective rage he channels, from the destruction he has unleashed, from the symbol of vengeance he has become. The people in the police cars, on the streets, wearing clown masks, setting Gotham ablaze, aren't celebrating Arthur Fleck. They don't even know who Arthur Fleck is. They probably wouldn't care about his story if they did. They're celebrating the idea of him. The fantasy that someone finally stood up. Someone finally fought the system. Someone finally made the powerful pay. But Arthur paid the highest possible price for this adoration. He became everything he had ever feared. Violent, destructive, inhuman, incapable of genuine connection, incapable of love, incapable of being seen as a person, only as a symbol. Contrast this final image. A glorified Arthur standing on his car, bathed in blood and adoration, surrounded by a burning city, with the first scene. Arthur, vulnerable, carrying a sign, trying to do his job honestly, trying to survive, being beaten by teenagers while no one cares, while no one stops to help, while the world simply passes by indifferently. He went from invisible to impossible to ignore, from irrelevant to unforgettable, from nobody to icon. But the cost was his soul. The cost was everything that made him human. The cost was the possibility of real connection, real love, real meaning. And now Gotham has its monster. But it wasn't the Joker who created it. It was every person who laughed, every system that failed, every moment of indifference built up until there was nothing but rage. Every time someone looked away, every time Arthur's humanity was denied. The Joker isn't the villain of this story. He's the symptom, the mirror that reflects the illness of an entire society. And when we look into that mirror, the face we see isn't just his, it's ours too. So what do we really learn from Arthur Fleck's journey? We've learned that monsters aren't born, they're created, patiently, systematically, with every act of indifference, with every moment of cruelty disguised as humor, with every system that fails just when it should protect. But the deeper, more uncomfortable lesson is this. We don't see people as they are. We see them as we are. When an entire society refuses to see a man's pain, when it turns his suffering into entertainment, when it treats his humanity as disposable, it is not just being cruel to one individual. She is building the bomb that will explode in her own lap. And when that bomb finally detonates, when the invisible man becomes impossible to ignore, society looks on in horror and asks, how did this happen? How could such a monster exist? The answer is in the mirror. Arthur Fleck shows us the tragedy of uncontrolled darkness. He shows us what happens when the shadow is not integrated, but left to ferment until it explodes. He shows us the human cost of systematic indifference. His story is a warning, but it's also an invitation to reflect. Because here's the question. Arthur Fleck succumbed to his darkness. He was consumed by it. But what if it didn't have to be this way? What if there was a way to confront the shadow without being destroyed by it? What if it were possible to embrace the darkness, acknowledge the anger, and validate the pain without letting it turn us into monsters? Arthur shows us the tragedy of uncontrolled darkness. But is it possible to master this darkness and use it for a purpose? Is it possible to look into the shadow without being devoured by it? This is a different journey. A journey that doesn't end in chaos, but in integration. A journey that doesn't destroy, but rebuilds. And maybe that's the journey we all need to take before it's too late. If this video made you reflect, if it made you question how you view the suffering around you, leave a like. And if you want to explore more about how to integrate the shadow without being destroyed by it, stay tuned for the next video. Because the story doesn't have to end like Arthur Fleck's, unless we choose the same path of indifference that created the Joker.